But first, it's the 1st of April, the beginning of a new financial year, which means there will be a few changes to your personal finances. Let's start with some of the better news. Now, the national living wage has increased to £11.44 an hour, and the age at which you're eligible to receive it has gone down from 23 to 21 years old. Parents in England can now access 15 hours of weekly childcare for their 2-year-olds as the scheme extended to that group. And the annual energy bill for a household using a typical amount of gas and electricity, I know Martin Lewis hates it when you say that, a typical amount. Anyway, that's going to fall to £1,690, but it is the lowest for 2 years, so I guess some good news from that. Ofgem's price cap affects 29 million households in England, Wales and Scotland. So hopefully that is you listening to 5 Live this afternoon as you're driving around or perhaps stuck in traffic. But for many people, phone and broadband costs, TV licence, dental fees, water bills, council tax bills, they're all on the increase. So, Susie Laws is taking time away from her bank holiday Monday to hang out with us, financial expert at Fiducia Wealth Management. Susie, thank you for taking time out on a bank holiday Monday to do a little bit of work. Let's start with the energy price cap. Let's start with some good news. What does this mean for consumers today, Susie?
Well, as you've said, it's obviously the average household cost will go down. So effectively, it's the cap is coming down, which is good news. It means the price per unit will be lower, but obviously people still have to be minded when they're using energy that they'll still be paying for what they are using. So that's why Martin Lewis hates it, because obviously one household to another uses a very different amount of energy.
Indeed. Okay, so 29 million households, though. So very, very widespread. Hopefully, people will be seeing a slight reduction, or indeed better reduction.
They will. They absolutely will. But I mean, we still have to keep this in context. The last few years, and obviously, we've seen massive increases in energy prices over that time. So even obviously, they are going to be at their lowest for the last 2 years, but they're still going to be significantly above pre-pandemic levels, which for a lot of families will still make things very challenging.
Yeah. So let's not get carried away with this.
No.
Okay, how will the changes to national living wage impact people, Susie?
Again, I mean, that's positive, but it's coming in the context of a very challenging wider economic climate. So obviously the changes, as you've already said, will benefit a number of people, and the age at which people get it will be lowered. But we are looking at a time when we're seeing rents going up by, I think the latest figures showed about 8% increase over the last year, which for the average, again, using the word average is always dangerous, but the average increased rents by over £1,100 over the last year. In that context, yes, it's obviously very beneficial for the minimum wage to be going up, but it still doesn't mean that families are necessarily going to find they have a lot more money at the end of the year.
And what about mortgages, Susie?
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Obviously, with interest rates where they are, we do think they may start to come down this year, obviously with inflation now falling, but they're still very high. And for people coming off low fixed rate deals, of which there's still quite a number of people whose fixed rates are likely to come up for renewal over the next 9 months, they're going to find that they're going to be paying a lot more on their monthly mortgage costs than they have been previously. So it's still, we're not out of this cost of living crisis for a lot of families, although, yes, it is great news that energy prices are coming down. As you've already mentioned, there's a lot of other things that are going up. And for most people, the cost of housing will be the biggest one.
Can you foresee there being much more competition in the market in terms of mortgages as companies try to compete for our custom?
Yes, I mean, obviously we've already seen mortgage rates stabilise compared to some of the challenges we had last year, but the difference is they're still going to have to get used to paying more. We've had mortgage rates of sort of between 1% and 2% for a lot of people for sort of 15 years. We are not, even with competition coming back into the market and some bit more stability and potential, Bank of England base rate reductions, we're not going to go back to the previous level of mortgage rates. I think people are going to have to get used to paying a little bit more, unfortunately, for their mortgage. And that will also mean that renters are paying more, partly because obviously the landlords are choosing to exit the private rental space, but also because those who remain potentially paying more on the mortgages on the properties that they're renting. So that's always going to then be passed on in some form to renters.
Susie, go and enjoy your bank holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on. Susie Laws, their financial expert at Fiducia Wealth Management.